Straight ahead, chopping block. President Trump orders the dismantling of the U.S. Department of Education. We'll hear from Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who's blasting the move, and from Republican Congressman Brandon Gill, who's praising it. Sounding off, members of Congress discuss proposed Medicaid cuts and how this could impact you. And bipartisan clarification. Republicans and Democrats in Austin are signing on to new bills aimed at clearing confusion over medical exceptions to the state's near abortion ban after reports of pregnant women dying in Texas. Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Jack Fink. Get your fix for Texas politics. Eye on Politics starts now. Hello and welcome to Eye on Politics. Lots going on in Austin and Washington, so let's get right to it. And we begin with President Trump's executive order to start abolishing the U.S. Department of Education. His order follows budget cuts by the agency, which intends to close the Dallas regional office of its Civil Rights Division. The White House says, for now, Pell Grants, funding for low-income and disabled students will remain under the department, but could be transferred to other agencies in the future. It will take an act of Congress, including 60 votes in the U.S. Senate, though, to shut down the department. We spoke with Republican Congressman Brandon Gill of Mound, who applauds the move, and Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Dallas, who blasts it.
What he's about to do is break the law again. Some court will come in and tell him, no, Mr. President, just so you know, you're not allowed to do that, kind of like they had to do with birthright citizenship and so many other things that he's trying to just kind of write into law. He believes that he reigns supreme to the other co-equal branches of government and that he can do whatever he wants to. But this is devastating. At the end of the day, they are trying to starve this agency and bring it to its knees one way or another. We know that prior to him even signing off on this, when they finally did nominate the wrestling CEO to become the secretary, she was tasked with trying to shut down the agency. That is what he told her. We know that as soon as she got in, she decided that she was going to get rid of 50% of the people that work for the Department of Education. And so while they may go through trying to shut it down by basically putting it into a malnourished state, you know, they're going to have to go through the courts, or they're going to just have to get the Republicans to say, okay, we're okay with signing off on getting rid of the Department of Education. Good luck with that one.
Let me ask you, because everything that's been written so far, and obviously what you're saying, Congress still has to vote to do this.
Yeah.
And in the Senate, they need 60 votes to do it, right?
Yeah.
So how concerned are you about this?
I'm not very concerned about them being able to shut down the Department of Education legally, the lawful way, because of the filibuster in the Senate. Now, I say this on the heels of definitely a group of Senate Democrats letting us down as it relates to the continuing resolution that went through their chamber. I don't really see why or how they could agree to help the Republicans shut down the Department of Education. It doesn't really make sense. I don't think that this is a partisan thing. This is evil versus good. This is right versus wrong.
Well, I think first of all, the educational authority should be at the state level. I think that it was a dubious constitutionality that the Department of Education was created to begin with. As you know, it was created not until 1979 under President Carter. And since then, we have seen no improvement in educational attainment. In fact, on almost every single educational level, we've seen a decline in American standards. So it has not done its job. It has done an incredibly poor job. And a lot of the funding that comes from the Department of Education comes with strings attached, comes with woke ideologies that are being shoved down parents' throats, students' throats, and the state's throats. And I'm excited to see it end.
Now, there have been some concerns expressed by Democrats. The three Democrats who are in North Texas, Congresswoman Crockett, Julie Johnson, and Mark Vesey, sent a letter to Secretary McMahon questioning this and also expressing concern about the Office of Civil Rights being shut down or ultimately being shut down by the department. the Office of Civil Rights in Dallas. What do you say to that?
I would say, first of all, we don't have the text of the executive order just yet. I think we'll get that later today. Typically what happens whenever departments are being shut down like this is that some of the more useful functions are going to be dealt with elsewhere in other areas of the federal government. But by and large, I do not believe that the federal government should play a role to the extent that the Department of Education has in our educational system. That is a state role, and that's something the state should take up, and they will.
The potential shutdown of the U.S. Department of Education comes amid talk by Republicans of making $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid over a 10-year period. We spoke with Congresswoman Crockett and Republican Congressman Keith Self of McKinney about this.
The House budget resolution that passed was all about determining where these cuts were going to come from. So the Republicans kept going out saying, listen, they keep talking about Medicaid and that we're going to cut Medicaid, but there was no mention of Medicaid in the budget resolution, and there wasn't. They are telling the truth about that. But what they are being deceitful about is they said from Energy and Commerce, which is one of our committees, they said you have to find 880. I think it's 880.
That's correct.
There is nowhere else to find it. So I don't get it. Like, the math doesn't math for me. If there's nowhere else to find it but in Medicaid, then yeah, you can do your double talk and say that you're not going to do it. But the reality is that you all voted for the bill to do it. I mean, the budget office told us like where it would come from.
First of all, it's been made very clear by leadership that no beneficiaries will be hurt in Medicaid. So let's lay that on the table first. Now, the point is we want to get every able-bodied adult working again, because COVID did a tremendous amount of damage to lots of these programs. And Medicaid was one that it did one of the most damaging proposals, procedures was that we've got able-bodied people that are still on Medicaid when they should be working. So we need to get them off of Medicaid. We need to get them into the workforce. That's the big driver in this, is to get all able-bodied adults working again. We're missing the value of work, the dignity of work, the self-worth of work. People earning their keep instead of being on the dole with the government.
Congressman Self says he and other Republicans believe pregnant women, the poor, and the disabled should remain on Medicaid without any cuts to their benefits. House Republicans have passed a resolution to advance President Trump's agenda to secure the border and extend his tax cuts from 2017. Republicans will need simple majorities to pass this in the House and Senate, and we asked Congressman Self for an update on where things stand.
There's a lot of work to be done on reconciliation. We've done 1/4 of the work here. We've passed the House resolution. Senate's got to pass theirs. Then we each have to make the cuts, actually identify the cuts that are going to be made, and then we have to come back together and agree on that. So while we want to do it quickly, and the reason we want to do it quickly, is because we want to have the positive impact on the economy prior to the midterms. That's the mistake they made in 2017. They passed it too late to have any impact on the midterms. So that's why the conservatives, the Republicans, want to get it done sooner rather than later.
And is that going to include that $4.5 trillion that you talked about in tax cuts? Is that also going to include what President Trump ran on? No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security.
I understand that it will.
Another issue that made national headlines last week is the dust-up between the Trump administration and federal Judge James Boasberg, who blocked the deportation of Venezuelan migrants that the government identified as members of the Tren de Aragua gang. After the president said the judge should be impeached over his order, Congressman Gill filed articles of impeachment against the judge. Congresswoman Crockett responds after Gill discusses the measure.
Judge James Boasberg, a rogue D.C. Circuit Court judge, has abused his power of the judiciary, weaponized the judiciary, politicized it to usurp President Trump's clear plenary Article 2 powers of Commander-in-Chief. And remember, he did this for the purpose of turning a plane midair full of some of the most violent, brutal, ruthless terrorists to demand that they come back into our communities. That is a usurpation of power. It's unconstitutional and it's wrong.
What did you make of the Chief Justice saying that impeaching a judge is basically not the answer? There is the appellate process. Appeal the case. Appeal the judge's order. What do you say to that?
Well, I would love to see this ruling appealed, but I'd love to see this appealed quickly. The American people gave President Trump a mandate to both secure the border and deport illegal aliens. Remember, Tren de Aragua is one of the most grotesque drug organizations in the entire world. These are people that not only murder and rape little girls in America, but they derive sadistic pleasure from torturing their victims. These are the people that judge demanded come back into our communities. Now, we need the appellate process to work, but we need it to work quickly. This cannot be a months-long or years-long process. I hope that the Supreme Court steps in quickly, but a core part of our separation of powers and checks and balances is the power of Congress to impeach rogue judges, and this certainly qualifies as a case that demands impeachment. I think impeachment is a proper response here. I hope that we push it forward. I think that it would be best done by going through the proper committee process.
The idea that anyone should be given permission to violate a court order, no matter who you are, you don't have that right. That's just not what it is in America. And so what we have is we are seeing that the legislative branch has decided that they don't want to be co-equal. They want to be subservient, at least if they're Republicans. They want to be subservient to the executive branch. Right now, at least so far, the judiciary has held their own. Every time that Donald Trump and this administration has been challenged, we have won in court. The question is, are we really winning? Because at the end of the day, if you have a branch of government that says, I am going to ignore you because I am above you, then that is a problem. So really what Brandon should have been doing is going back to the basics of government and recognizing that if anybody has failed in this particular court case, it wasn't the judiciary who issued an order. It was Donald Trump and his administration. I sit on the Judiciary Committee. And so if for some reason anything was to take place, it has to go through judiciary. So it will come through my committee. I will absolutely do everything that I can to talk about how ridiculous this is and try to give a very elementary education of the basics. Yes, we don't want bad guys. I'll scream it from the rooftop. I don't want bad guys from this country or any other country running around and terrorizing anyone in our communities, period, no matter who you are, right? But at the end of the day, you have an administration that continues to overreach.
Coming up next, the new bills aimed at clearing up confusion about when doctors can perform an abortion to save the life of the mother. When Eye on Politics comes right back. Welcome back to Eye on Politics. Now to the state's near abortion ban and new legislation aimed at clarifying medical exceptions that have caused confusion and led to serious health issues for pregnant women, some reportedly resulting in death. Republican State Senator Brian Hughes of Mineola and Republican Representative Charlie Guerin of Fort Worth have filed the bills, and Democratic lawmakers have signed on as co-authors. We spoke with Senator Hughes.
After the heartbeat law and after Roe versus Wade was overturned, the statistics show us that in those cases when a mom's life is in danger, most hospitals, most doctors are getting this right. It's a sad situation, but we know there have been 140 plus cases since Roe was overturned where the doctor has done an abortion to save the life of the mother. So most doctors and hospitals are getting this right, but some are not. We've heard from some moms, there have been stories in the media and other places about hospitals and doctors that were not treating moms with ectopic pregnancies or moms who had suffered a miscarriage, situations like that. So even though the law says those moms should be treated, we want to make it even clearer and remove any excuse. So this bill does a couple of things. It takes what has always been the medical emergency standard in Texas and makes sure the language is consistent across all of our statutes. It takes into account court rulings so lawyers don't get confused about what the words might mean. And it also requires that physicians who practice obstetrics, gynecology, that those physicians must take a course so they know what the law is. And it also requires a course be available to every lawyer so that hospital lawyers can see it. These courses have to be available freely. And for the doctors, the course is required as a condition of renewing a license. So our goal is to make the statutes crystal clear so there's no excuse, no delay in treating moms that need help and making sure that docs know what the law is.
And Senator Hughes said other provisions of the law have not changed, meaning if doctors are found guilty of performing abortions when they should not have, they could face criminal charges, civil lawsuits, fines, and losing their licenses. Representative Guerin spoke at a news conference attended by dozens of faith leaders in Texas.
It's an honor to carry the Life of the Mother bill. There's too many women have suffered, too many have died. If one has died, it's too many and more have.
This particular bill saves the lives of Texas moms. It adds language that clarifies our current law so that doctors can provide evidence-based health care.
Black women are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related issues. And we feel our current abortion climate and laws place all women, and especially Black women, more at risk. And so we do believe and we support the Life of the Mother Act.
In Plano Tuesday afternoon, I asked Governor Abbott about Senator Hughes' bill.
Because some people misconstrued the way the law was intended to work, this is an effort to provide clarity that doctors can and must do what is necessary to save the life of the mother.
The governor was in North Texas Tuesday to continue his push for school choice, spending $1 billion in taxpayer money for students to attend private school. He said a House committee will likely approve the measure this coming week, but nothing has been scheduled just yet. The governor also said the full House will pass it sometime in early April. I asked the governor about concerns expressed by House Democratic lawmakers that in future years the program could cost the state $8 billion over a 2-year period, at least as forecast by the Legislative Budget Board.
It's impossible for the program to grow so large for the budget that we can't afford it because we're only going to appropriate to it that which is affordable for the state.
Earlier in the day, the governor attended the announcement by NASDAQ that it's opening a regional office in Dallas, covering the southeastern U.S. This comes after the New York Stock Exchange's commitment to move its operations in Chicago to Dallas, and as the Texas Stock Exchange is being created in Dallas.
The Dallas area, writ large, has turned out to be the second largest financial center in the United States, with New York being the first. That's swiftly changing, however, with people leaving New York and going to places like Texas.
NASDAQ presented its first ever Lifetime Achievement Award to North Texas developer Ross Perot Jr. Coming up after the break, a story that continues to sizzle at the state capitol, an update on the high stakes over the official stake of Texas when Eye on Politics returns. Now an update on the friendly competition at the Texas Capitol between the House and Senate on what should be the official stake of Texas. Leaders have proposed resolutions and made their case on the platform X after Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick recently said the New York Strip should be renamed the Texas Strip, at least here in the Lone Star State. The Lieutenant Governor and the Senate think the state's official stake should be a Texas Strip. But Speaker Dustin Burrows and the House argue it should be the tomahawk ribeye. The House State Affairs Committee even held a hearing on its resolution Wednesday, but took no action. The Senate has referred its resolution to a committee. It's an issue I really just had to sink my teeth into.
I think it's awesome. They're both great cuts of meat.
Is your mouth watering just yet? Nice guy that he is, Chef Joe Riojas, a trick rider at the Omni PGA Frisco Resort and Spa, agreed to show us the difference between a tomahawk ribeye, which the Texas House believes should be the official steak of Texas, and a Texas strip, the Senate's choice for official steak of Texas. The tomahawk ribeye they serve here is 36 ounces. And if you ask the chef...
My pick personally would be the tomahawk.
Why?
It just speaks Texas. It's large, it's big, it's a showstopper. When you see a tomahawk, you know there's something special going on. It's like eating the most flavorful filet you could ever have.
But it's not a total loss for fans of the Texas Strip. Riojas says he's noticed that when most other chefs order steak for themselves, they prefer the strip.
It's really the middle ground for if you're looking for a nice fatty steak.
Wow, so good. No matter how you slice it, the lieutenant governor is hoping all of this talk will help promote Texas beef. Following my assignment, I kept sinking my teeth into these delicious steaks, chewing it over to determine which cut I think is above the rest. And then I remembered, I'm a political reporter. I can't take a side. Truth is, I like them all. And don't forget, you can watch all of our full interviews from today's show on our YouTube channel. Just go to CBS Texas, like, and hit the subscribe button. And that's all for Eye on Politics this week. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening to you at CBS News Texas. I'll see you next week, and from all of us here, have a great day.